We need to change our story that describes the relationship we have with the natural world. And it's in that story, in changing that story, that we can realign these cultural distortions that we get, this cultural lens that we look through when we look at the environment, and begin to see it in a different light. The Euro-Americans, the metaphor for natural resources was money. You could convert it to a commodity. Ecosystems were warehouses full of commodities that could be converted to cash. On the other hand, the Native Americans believed that we were part of a community that included all the beings, all the living things. The overarching metaphor for natural resources for Native Americans was the gift. What we have is this ecosystem and fragmented into pieces, and each piece is nibbling away at the attributes of the river that the salmon need. In the end, we have something that, to us, who look at the river fairly superficially, it looks like a river, but to the salmon, it's no longer a river, it's no longer their home. We started out 130 years ago thinking that we could control the animal without knowing anything about the ecosystem that they lived in, its relationship to the ecosystem, and in its relationship to humans. The Native Americans that had a strong tie to the salmon. Agriculture uses a lot of the same resources of the river that the salmon need. Ag has had a big influence on the development of this simplified industrial production model that we use to manage salmon and steelhead. In the early days of salmon management, it was stated fairly bluntly that what we need to do with salmon is get them under our control so that we can do the same things with salmon production that we have done with agricultural production. We practiced artificial propagation because we wanted to use the habitat for other purposes. We're only just now beginning to learn that wild salmon and hatchery salmon require good, healthy river habitat equally. We've eliminated a lot of their biodiversity. We've eliminated a lot of their life history diversity. Diversity is important whether you are a salmon trying to deal with a fluctuating environment or whether you're an investor trying to deal with a fluctuating market. In order to achieve economic efficiency, which is one of the prime concerns of hatchery operations, all the fish have to do the same thing at the same time. In the wild, there may be several of these life history habitat chains that the fish are following. And some years, some of those life history habitat chains are more productive and others are less productive, depending on the conditions in the ocean, the conditions in the river. But if you only have one chain, if you're following one single life history, which is what the fish factory gives you, then the only time you're going to have good returns is when all of these environmental factors line up in a positive way. If the habitat has been homogenized and the diversity of habitat is gone, it's going to produce far fewer life histories, and those fish are going to be less capable of reacting to changes in the environment at some point down the road in their life history habitat chain, particularly out in the ocean. Our watersheds, the salmon-producing ecosystems, are fragmented among a whole host of various decision-making institutions. And those institutions often serve very, very narrow special interests, like Forest Service serves the timber industry and to, I think, a lesser degree, the recreation industry. The water departments serve the irrigators, and so on and so forth. The unfortunate thing for salmon is that they cross all of them. Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Pacific Northwest, the place-defining event was the return of the salmon. The return of the salmon fed the whole ecosystem. When the salmon came up a river in the huge numbers that they historically had, they converted the river from a channel flowing water to the sea to a great banquet table set for the whole ecosystem. And the whole ecosystem fed on them, including the next generation of salmon. Their return every year was the place-defining event. But we've lost that. If we are going to survive, and if the salmon are going to survive, we need to figure out a way to build bridges between the industrial economy and the natural economy. We need to figure out ways that will allow those to coexist.